Ultimately, sales is always about closing. Hey, it's Nikki. Before we start the show, I wanted to offer you an opportunity to go and get the ebook called Closing the Sale. This is an ebook that I wrote that's all about simple tips to increase your confidence around the close. If you don't have this yet, please go and download it. It's a very simple, fast read, and it's packed full of information and even some language suggestions of how to actually make the ask. You can get this right now by going to yoursalesmaven.com/confidence. Because it is going to build your confidence. So that's yoursalesmaven.com/confidence. Go download that now. And then when you're ready, let's start the show.
Are you ready to boost your confidence when selling so you're able to close more deals? Nikki Roush will show you how to build a foundation of skills and a mindset that creates sales success without feeling pushy or salesy and without fear of rejection. She is a sales strategist and coach with more than 25 years of sales experience and is master certified in neuro-linguistic programming. This is a radically different approach to selling. It's a no sleaze, no slime, and no stress approach to building your business. This is Sales Maven. Here's Nikki.
Welcome, and thank you for listening to the Sales Maven Show. I'm your host, Nikki Roush. I'm your own personal sales maven here to offer you tips, techniques, and strategies to master your sales conversations. Today is an on-air coaching call with Jenn Trinidad. She is one of our Sales Maven Society members. Jenn, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to dig in and talk with you today and talk about growing your business. Before we get there, though, tell everybody about you and your story and your business and what you're doing now.
Sure. So my name is Jenn Trinidad. I'm from Honolulu, Hawaii, and I have a website called budgetdivas.com, which it has a membership where I help women with their budget so that they can achieve financial freedom.
Awesome.
So I focus on 3 pillars in my membership. One is creating your budget, and I help women fine-tune their budget so they can see where all the holes are and where they need to either increase their income or decrease their expenses. And then the second pillar is decreasing expenses, and the third pillar is increasing income. So I kind of think of it as the epicenter at Disney, where if you get lost, you just need to go back to your budget, because your budget is really the GPS in your car of where it will tell you where you're lacking, if you need to make a U-turn, and if you're going to achieve your financial goals moving forward. So it kind of started because I don't have a problem making money. I have a problem saving the money and keeping it in my bank account. And so I tell the story of how we paid off $90,000 of debt in 4 years. But the first 3 years was just doing a budget-ish. And then the last year was when we got really focused and we were able to pay off $41,000 in 12 months.
That's amazing. So over the course of 4 years, you paid off $90,000 in budget or in debt, excuse me. So $90,000 in debt. And in the last year, just 1 year, 12 months, you paid off $41,000 of that $90,000 using this three pillar approach that you now teach in your membership. Is that right?
Yes.
That's amazing. Congratulations. And what a huge inspiring story for people to hear and to know. And I love what you said, like, I don't have a problem making money, like that you're good at. And now it's like learning how to use your money in a way that gets you to your goal, right? So I love what you're doing. And I love that you're helping women specifically on this. So awesome. Congrats. Now tell us a little bit about what's going on in the membership. What's happening in there? What are the, like, how's the membership structured for your clients?
So in the membership, I have videos on the 6 biggest mindset issues. I talk about all the mindset struggles that I went through in those first 3 years that led me to just doing budget-ish. I would make a budget, but I wouldn't really live on a budget. And then I also have resources on using an Excel spreadsheet to track numbers. So the reason why I like to use an Excel spreadsheet to track all of my numbers is if you change one number in one cell, it can totally make a difference in the bottom number. So if I'm just cutting my grocery budget by $20, that's $20 extra I could be paying off to debt. So having that resource and seeing it on a computer all at once really helped to motivate me of if I just cut a little here and there, then I can get to my goals so much faster. Mm-hmm. So one of my members, when she started with me, she thought she was going to be debt-free by February 2023. When we actually did her budget, she will actually be debt-free by the end of this year. Wow. Just by looking at her numbers, not even changing anything in her budget. So that was super motivating for her. And she is so excited to be debt-free by 2021 so that she can start using that money towards her future financial goals. So in the membership, I have resources and courses on how to do your budget, overcome the mindset obstacles. And I also meet with my members on one-on-one coaching every 2 weeks so we can see how their progress has been.
That's awesome. That's so awesome. This is powerful stuff for somebody to have set a goal that says, oh, by 2023, I want to reach a goal. And yet by working with you and by paying attention to their numbers and all of these things that they reached a goal 2 years before they thought they could. That's mind blowing to me. And, I do this a lot with my own clients too, is I tell them track the revenue that's coming into your business every week, because when you pay attention to the revenue that's coming into your business, it oftentimes will spur my clients and myself too, because I do this as well. It spurs me sometimes to be like, oh, I need to generate some more revenue. So I need to send out, I need to make some type of an offer, or I need to really pay attention to what's going on. So I can imagine that with being a part of your membership, this is going to allow people to, like you said, pay attention to what's going out, what's coming in, and then help them reach their goal so much quicker. Can you imagine the listener right now? Think about what's a big goal for you. And maybe it's something that you have thinking oh, it's 3, it's 4, it's 5 years out. Imagine if you hit that goal in 2 years, or in a year, you hit it so much quicker. So I feel like you just blew my mind a little bit with this. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's awesome what you're doing. Budget Divas. This is awesome. Okay. So this is a coaching call for you, friend. How can I serve you in your business today? What should we talk about?
So in the Sales Maven Society, you gave me some great tips on how to create curiosity. Mm-hmm. I need help with getting the prospect through the rest of the selling staircase. So getting them through the discovery process all the way to saying yes. I know that this product works. I'm passionate about my services. I just need the right language to get it across as this is something that's valuable and going to benefit them. Okay.
So let's talk through the last kind of 3 steps of the selling staircase then, and say, so you're doing a good job. You're creating some curiosity. And now once you've created the curiosity, what happens before you typically move to step 3 in the process, which is discovery, is people will start giving you buying signals. So when you start to notice oh, I've created some curiosity. Now they're asking me some questions. There's some kind of interest here in some way. Your next step is to follow up with an invitation. And that invitation should be to whatever the next logical step is based on what you guys are talking about. So for instance, I'm thinking about, you had shared in the Sales Maven Society recently that you went to a networking function, I think with your husband. Is this right? Am I
Yes.
remembering it right? Okay. So, and you did a great job of working the room. I remember like you shared some of the stuff that you were doing in there. So let's say you're at a networking meeting, you've created some curiosity, and it may not make sense for you to like dive deep into a conversation about the budget divas and the membership program there at the networking meeting. But if somebody's giving you some buying signals, indicating interest in some way about like, oh, so tell me a little bit more about what you do, or gosh, that sounds like something, I could benefit from. I want you to issue an invitation to schedule a time for you to actually have a conversation that's focused on like what's going on for them, and then see if you have a solution that meets their needs. So an example of this would be, let's say somebody gives me a buying signal. I'm out at a networking meeting and they're like, gosh, this this idea of like, paying off debt feels super overwhelming to me. I would take that as a buying signal. And I would say, well, that's actually something that clients often feel upfront until after we have a conversation to find out like what is really going on for them. And then if I can show them a way that in a really, simple kind of 3-prong process, we can absolutely help them achieve their goals. Is that something you'd be interested in learning more about? That's the invitation. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Okay. So then they say, oh yeah. And then you go, I have my calendar right here. What do you think about us scheduling a time to chat? And then so when you do this, so I know that the listener can't see me, but you can see me because we're on Zoom. So I carry my calendar on my phone, and this is what I do. I take my phone, I pull up the calendar app. I use the Google Calendar app, and I pull it up and I look at my phone and I say, what do you think about us scheduling a time to chat? Let's get something on our calendars. And I just look down at my phone and I wait. I wait to see what they do or say next. Typically, what they'll do is they'll pull out their calendar, and then we schedule a time. And then I ask like, oh, what's your email address? Let me send you this calendar, invite. And I just set it up right then. So everything is already like, it's official. We have a date scheduled. That's super important. Because if you say, well, let me get your card and I'll email you some dates, that's not going to be as effective as if you schedule a time right then when they've indicated interest. You get on their calendar. And if you can actually set it up on your phone where you say like, budget discussion, Jen and, Mary or whoever it is that you're talking to, and then you can put on there like a Zoom link or whatever, however you want to connect with them. And then when you get them, it comes like the day and the time comes, and now it's on your calendar for you to have a call with them. When you start that conversation, you're now on step 3. You're in the discovery process. I want you to pre-frame at the very beginning of the call. Do you know what I mean when I say pre-frame?
Giving them safety.
Yeah, you're going to create safety. So an example of a pre-frame would be to say something like, so I'm you right now. So I'm going to step in and say like, Mary, thank you so much for taking this time to chat today. I'm really looking forward to learning more about you and what's going on, on the financial side of your life, and see if I might be a resource to you. We're scheduled to chat for about 15, 20 minutes. Does that still work for you? They're going to say yes. You go, great. Now, is it okay if I start with a couple quick questions? So you get permission. So that's the pre-frame. Now, the next piece is, what are the questions that you ask in that discovery call? These are so crucial to moving people down this path to getting to the next step. Okay. So what I mean by that is the questions that you're asking need to be questions that lead them to want to be a part of the membership, lead them to see that there's some value behind the membership, wall that is going to, help them achieve what it is that they're wanting to achieve. Okay. So for instance, the first question I would probably ask the person is, what is your goal in regards to your financial situation right now? Like, what's your number one goal? That would be a question I would ask. Then my next question would be, where are you in relation to hitting that goal? And they're going to be like, well, I struggle. Like, I make good money, but I just don't know. It's just like, it's gone. Okay. So how do you track your monthly expenditures? That would be another question I would probably ask if I was you. And they probably are going to be like, what now? What do you mean track? I mean, I have my credit card statement. Is that what you mean? Okay. So you're going to say, well, not exactly, but we can talk about ways that might benefit you. So it's good to know, like, okay, you've got your credit card statement. We can talk about maybe if there's a more effective way to track. And then I'm going to ask a few other questions that you need to know in order to earn their business. So for you, another kind of question that comes to mind is, who else is involved in the budgeting in the household? Like, you probably need to know, and who makes who sets the monthly budget? You probably need to know that, because if they're like, well, I don't do any of it, my husband does all of it, they might not be a good fit for Budget Divas unless they're wanting to learn that piece. But if they're like, well, technically it's me, or I've heard you talk about this before, that sometimes you work with like millennials, maybe they're not married yet. So they are the person who has to kind of figure this out. I also know that financial literacy is not something that's taught in schools. So most millennials probably don't have a lot of financial literacy skills at this point, right? Because who would have taught it to them?
Yeah, I love those questions. Sometimes it's difficult to get them on the call. Mm-hmm. If they contact me by Facebook Messenger or by phone, even if I say, let's schedule something right now. And when they say, I'll get back to you, maybe I missed a step in the discovery, in the creating curiosity process.
Okay. So if you've gotten to this place where they are responding to you, or they're reaching out to you on, let's say they're DMing you in some way, right? They've heard your podcast. There's some piece of it that's interesting to them in some way. So if you're going to invite them to the next step and get them on a call, the thing that you want to say here is, is there some way I might be a resource to you? So let's say that somebody goes like, hey, Jenn, I listened to your podcast. I find it super helpful. Thank you so much. I just wanted you to know. So I want you to respond to that. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. Now, is there any way that I could be a resource to you in some way? I just said way twice. So is there some way I might be a resource to you? Question. Looking forward to hearing back from you. Okay. Now, if the person gets back and they're like, well, I know you talk about, budgeting, and it's just something that I don't know if I'm ready to do yet. I'm making up, like, are these the type of things people say to you?
These are the type of things that people say to me. Yes, definitely. So I need help in that area.
I'm always like, I always laugh at myself that I can usually come up with what are people's like kind of responses, because I've been doing this for a while. So I get this, like, I'm not really sure if I'm ready yet. And you go, hey, totally understand. Most people are not ready before, most people are ready before they even know they're ready. That's probably what I would say. Most people are ready before they even know they're ready. And the fact that you reached out, that you're listening to the podcast, does indicate there's some part of you that might benefit from the work that I do. So I want to advocate for that part of you and invite you to get on a call. There's no obligation. It would just be a conversation between us to see if there is an opportunity for us. What do you think about that? In case you like this idea, here are a few possible times. I know you know this language from me because I say it in the Sales Maven Society constantly, right? So you're going to give the 3 times language. Do you know what I mean when I say that?
Yes, 3 times
Okay.
language. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So you're going to give the 3 times language, and then you're going to say, looking forward to hearing back from you. Now, if they don't respond back to it, they really aren't ready, frankly. But if they're like, oh, okay, Jenn, let's get on a call. Great. Now you're going to kind of follow the process that we just kind of outlined about the discovery call. Are you giving 3 times when you're DMing with people? Are you doing that?
I am.
Okay.
So I did reach out to one person after I was on the phone with her, and we were talking about something else, but she had heard me through another networking organization, and she didn't get back to me. And the other person, we actually did have a call together, but I think she's not ready to take the next step yet.
Yeah. And that might be the case, right? Like they may not be ready yet, but you could still stay kind of front of mind in some way. Like for instance, this person who got on a call with you, but then didn't respond, don't be afraid to reach back out and say, hey, I was just thinking about you, wondering, how are things going? Is there anything I can do to be a resource to you right now? Let me know. So it's a more casual touch base. And then you could even do something where, if you have a podcast episode that you think might be in some way tied to some part of the conversation that you guys had, you could also reach out and say, hi, so-and-so, when we last spoke, you had mentioned, something around, budgeting or something around tracking your expenses or whatever. I just did a podcast on this. I don't know if this would be interesting to you, but I wanted to send it just in case you'd find some value in it. If you do listen, please let me know what your thoughts are. I'd love to hear. So it's just like engaging them in some, like trying to engage them in conversation in some way.
Okay. Yeah, I like that idea, especially because I've had 4 or 5 guests on my podcast now, and it's really helped to increase the numbers. It's not really that they've gone through my program, but they paid off debt or they're doing things to help their financial success. One of the really popular podcasts in the Budget Divas podcast is how to not feel overwhelmed when you don't know where to start with a budget. So that's a great one that I think I will send to that person because that was her reason for reaching out to me. She just felt like she makes good money, but she doesn't know where to start with her budget.
Okay. And I will say, if that's popular content for you, like, that's one of your most downloaded podcasts, what other kinds of content that you could put out that will tie back to it? So for instance, you might want to write a blog article that somehow is related to that, just for SEO purposes, but also you can then send, hey, in case you already listened to this episode of the podcast, here's an article that offers another tip, or here's a little bit of a different spin on it in some way. Like, don't be afraid to amplify whatever it is, or even share snippets, right? Like we do these for the podcast. My team goes and does these headliners. Do you know what headliner is? It's like those little snippets of the podcast.
I think I've seen it before.
Okay. So it's really where my team will go into a podcast. There will be one from this episode too, by the way. So usually Jamie will pick something that's between 30 seconds to maybe a minute and a half, 2 minutes, like some piece of it that might be interesting, that would spur really to create some curiosity. So somebody could click on it, listen to it, and be like, oh, I want to go check out that episode. So you could create those as well from your podcast and be sharing those. Like, here's a little snippet, and then here's the link to the podcast for the full episode.
Okay, yes, I have seen that before. Okay. And that does create a lot of curiosity for me as well when I see those.
Yeah. So make sure you're doing stuff that you're making your, your content, like bite size? How can you turn your content into bite size? Especially because you just said right away, like one of the biggest objections here is overwhelm. People feel overwhelmed, obviously, because that's a really popular episode. So how can you take any overwhelm or anything that feels like it's a big commitment, it's a bunch of time to get on a call, I don't have time, or I just feel really stuck, or frankly, people might even feel embarrassed or a little ashamed, right? Like none of us necessarily want to walk around like it, you kind of feel naked. I think I do when I think, oh, so-and-so is going to know everything about my finances. You know, that feels very vulnerable to people. So your job is to make it okay without them, like, and to create a lot of safety. I know we've talked about this in the membership too. For you, is that creating safety is going to be super important for people so that they feel like, okay, I can be revealing with Jenn and she's not going to judge me and think less of me and all of that stuff that goes on in people's heads. So having some awareness around that when you're having conversation with people.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because I was going to say that too, is the embarrassment and feeling shame. When I had joined another group years ago, it was an in-person group. I left after maybe 3 or 4 sessions because I felt embarrassed. I didn't want to share my numbers. I didn't want to share what I went through. So it is very important for me to create the safety for the prospects so they're open to sharing their financials with me. And having that conversation of it's up to you with what you want to share, and you don't have to share everything.
So that actually might actually be a podcast for you, like an episode for you of something around this idea of like, I think, I don't know if it's Brene Brown that says this, but I know she teaches a lot about shame, but I think this is her quote, is like, shame can't live in the dark, or shame lives in the dark, excuse me. Shame lives in the dark. And by letting the light in, like shame dissipates, right? So how can you help people feel comfortable to let go of shame? And so maybe you need to do like an episode about shame and budgeting, or shame and debt, or how to let go of the shame around debt that you give. Because one of the things I know in your membership now is that there's a lot of pieces around mindset. So you guys talk
absolutely
a lot about mindset, because mindset is the number one thing I would suspect getting in the way of people taking that next step with you. Is there some kind of a mindset thing? And you might even need to say to people that, we can get on a call without you having to share your exact numbers, and so that, your privacy is protected, and we can still talk about ways to help get you where it is that you want to go without you feeling like you have to stand naked in front of me and share all of the stuff. Like, for instance, you might even give people the strategy of like, we're going to talk in hundreds, not thousands. So, because it's the same thing, right? So if they say I'm $100 in debt, that might mean they're, $100,000 in debt, or it might mean that they're, $30,000 in debt or whatever. But let's assign $100 to your debt right now. Like, we're just going to give it whatever the amount is. We're going to say it's $100, and we're going to talk about it like it's $100. And we'll talk about ways in order to the advantage to being in Budget Divas, and how we're going to show you that you can pay down that $100 debt and get it to a place that's manageable and or gone in some really simple steps, right? So then you're not having to be so like, okay, I don't want to tell Jenn. Like, I've heard Jenn's story that she's $90,000 in debt. What's she going to think when she hears I'm, $160,000 in debt?
I really like that, because I heard in one of your podcasts that you said you can listen to all of these things on the podcast, but when you work personally with a coach, your coach can help you see those blind spots. And so that is the language that I'm trying to say to others. You don't have to tell me all your exact numbers, but I can help you with those blind spots so you can get where you need to be faster than where you think.
Yeah. And that is perfect language of helping people see that. Again, it's not that you have to give me specifics. We just need to talk in terms that make sense. Like we can assign some values to things and we can talk in a way that makes sense that you can then take those things, implement them into your life, and you're going to get results so much faster. Like for instance, my client who had set this goal for 2023 and here we are in 2021 and she's done. Like she's got that debt down. It's paid. And those are these simple steps. And these are the things that I teach in Budget Diva without you having to, share with everybody what your exact stuff is. You certainly can if you want to, but you don't have to. It's not a requirement in order for you to still get results.
Okay. Yes, I really like that a lot.
Okay. So I would say, kind of to wrap up today of what we're talking about here is that we talked about you're doing a good job of creating curiosity. Make sure you're getting those invitations issued and that you are making it super easy for people. Whatever their objection is, it's okay for you to say, that's a really common objection that my clients have, or that's a really common concern. I wouldn't actually use the word objection. That's a really common concern that clients have before we start working together. And yet sometimes the first step is to just get on a call and talk. What do you think about us scheduling it? And give them the 3 times and get people on calls with you. And then think about safety, safety, safety over and over again. Even if you go we're 10 minutes into the call, I want you also asking yourself, what can I do now to make them feel make sure that the rapport is there and that they're still feeling safe? Do I need to check in with them? Do I need to tell a little story? What can I do to just keep the safety going? Because when somebody is like, okay, I feel like I've been very vulnerable. And I think some of us get vulnerability hangovers, after you get off a call with somebody and you're like, oh my gosh, I think I just said some stuff that, wow, super revealing. But we want them to go well, I'm not ashamed to go back and get on a call with Jenn again because she got me. She kept me, she held a space that felt very safe for me. And then we're just issuing invitations for them to come and join Budget Diva so that they can really learn things, these skill sets that frankly, I feel pretty passionate about this, that should have been taught in schools, right? I learned a lot of things in schools that don't necessarily help me now in my adult life, but I will say financial literacy would have been crucial. I wish I knew some of the things that I learned very later in life. I wish I got taught those in, junior high and high school. What a difference that would have made to where I am financially.
Absolutely. I could have saved myself a lot of headache if I just had that financial literacy all those years ago. So when I'm on the phone or by email, issuing the invitation and giving them the 3 times, should I also be creating safety and letting them know that what they want to share is up to them and they don't have to share their exact numbers?
Yes, absolutely. I would just say, and in order to give you some peace of mind, please know that you don't have to give any specifics about your actual financial situation if you're not comfortable. And we can still have a dialogue that will leave, that you'll leave feeling valued, that will have, let me think about this. To give you some peace of mind, please know that you can you're certainly welcome to share your current financial situation, but it's not a requirement in order for you to still get benefit out of this call. I look forward to, hearing from you. Yeah. And see if that
sounds
helps.
super great.
See what kind of responses you get from people when you do that. safety is just one of those things that, especially I think when you're dealing with something that feels vulnerable, and finances are, money is one of those things. Like, I know sometimes people are like, I can't believe how much you talk about money, Nikki. I'm like, I do talk about it because I don't ever want it to feel that I'm ashamed of it, because I'm not. And I want other people to feel comfortable too, to be able to talk about money. But then we learn these lessons. Like, there are certain people I can talk very candidly about with my own financial situation. And there's other people who, you kind of learn like makes them uncomfortable. So I'll just keep it to myself. You want to be the person that they can talk very candidly. And when you create that safety, you'll find that people will be more revealing.
But I love that you talk about money because you're inspirational, for one. And it just shows people what the possibilities are. When I was in debt, I didn't see any possibilities. Now that we're out of debt, there's so many possibilities. And, I can start my own business. I can do what I want with my money. I don't have to be chained to paying off that debt every single month. Yeah. So yes, I definitely think talking about money is super important, and money is just a tool. It's not good or bad. It just is.
That's right. That's right. I love that attitude. All right, friend. Well, thank you for coming on the show and asking these questions. I'm excited for you to continue to implement and continue to grow your membership as you do, because again, so many people will benefit from what you're teaching inside Budget Divas. So I have 2 questions before we wrap up today. The first one is, what's one benefit you've received so far from being in the Sales Maven Society?
One benefit that I've received is the personal attention that you give in the Facebook group. So when I'm stuck on an email or on a Facebook ad that I need to do, I can post it in there, and you help me change the language so it sounds so much better than I could have ever thought of. So I really appreciate you being in the group and being active and giving your advice.
Thank you. That's so sweet. We love having you in the group. Okay. And then how can people get a hold of you? Because I think there's probably some listeners that are like, I'd like to learn from somebody who can pay off $90,000 in debt in 4 years. Yes, please.
Sure. So you can go to budgetdivas.com. I have a free resource if you just want a paper budget just to see an outline of where your numbers are at. It's budgetdivas.com/free. And I also have a 30-day free trial membership. If you want to come and see what the membership is all about, you can try it free for 30 days. And I'm happy to see you in there.
And what is the monthly membership rate? To be a member? What are we talking about?
The monthly membership is $29 a month. I am adding new courses in the upcoming months, so it's going to be super exciting. It's all about how to increase your income and get good at first impressions with that employer.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. It was such a pleasure to have you on the podcast. Go check Jenn out, $29 a month to learn how to learn from an expert on how to pay off debt is well worth that investment. So go check her out. And thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being a listener. You might know that 2021 is the year of the question. So this week's question for you is, have there been other instances where you've had to decide on something similar to this, and what was the outcome? So this is a question that you would ask when people are kind of hemming and hawing about making a decision with you. You could ask, have there been other instances where you've had to decide on something similar to this, and what was the outcome? Get their brain thinking about like successes. And so allow for them to answer the question and see what happens. So that's your question for this week's episode. And if you haven't joined the Sales Maven Society yet, come hang out with us. This is the place where you bring your questions, you bring your concerns. Frankly, you bring your communications, your emails, your whatever you need feedback on. And I'm going to be there to guide you to boost your confidence in your selling situations. And you get to hang out with really cool members like Jenn. So you can go to the salesmavensociety.com right now and sign up. It's normally $147 a month for this program. And here's the coupon code that's going to save you $100 off your first month. And that's by using the coupon code 47trial. That's the number 4, the number 7, TRIAL. You can come hang out with us for your first month for 47. We'd love to have you in there, see you in there, and support you. Thank you so much for listening. I will be back next week. Take care, everyone.
Thanks for listening to Sales Maven. Visit us online at yoursalesmaven.com/maven for more resources to boost your confidence and skills.